you're not walking on any of those constructed walls. Using very little hands to touch anything, except for what I tell you.
You getting all that?
Yeah. So we'll be walking along the trail
that
and going down into the It's part of saving these places. And the other safety issues I want to talk about
We're at Cliff Palace.
Is that if you have any orthopedic issues or something, I would ask you to tell me that this is the right trail for you. Okay, we're going to be descending over 100 feet. And we have a metal staircase and a ramped trail that certainly isn't up the road. And we also have the Civilian Conservation Corps steps and pathways that they have built through this whole park area. That was in 1936, 1942. So those trails are there for you to enjoy, but they're very difficult, they're very unlevel, the stair steps are unlevel, so you all have to be able to handle that on your own. I expect you to take care of yourself while you're down there. If you have any of these issues, that you would let me know, okay, so that we can avoid any other problems with heat or balance or any of those types of things. So this trail, as we go down, you'll be headed down there, and then you also have to be able to exit 3 ladders out here at the end. So that's climbing up and down these ladders, and that's why it's important for your hands to be free. So we'll take our time, and I will find shade for you as we go down. Yeah. So again, welcome to Mesa Verde National Park, and I will take your tickets down at the bottom, and we'll start headed down this ramp trail. And the truth is I'm going to ask you to stop, my leaders, whoever my leaders are up there.
All right, we're going down the trail towards the ruins.
And they have a little and that can really precipitate psychotic behavior.
I'm pretty sure the Anasazi people didn't have steps quite like this. They might have.
I didn't stop anybody by stopping to take a picture, did I?
Nope, you didn't. Nope, they were exclaiming how challenging it was coming down back there, which I'm okay with. Maybe they'll focus on that and not all the other bullcrap she was trying to tell us. No, there's a few more. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep coming forward. Everybody keep coming forward. You don't have to rush though. Just keep coming.
Burned thousands of
many
times.
times.
Over eons. It's a natural part of nature, which the government thinks they know more about than nature does.
She pulls them every time.
Indeed.
Look at there. Look. instead of putting it in my bag last time.
Yeah, I don't remember this ladder being here. There was something else that we did.
That is amazing. So you know they were very nomadic. They went everywhere.
I don't know. Place either to sit on the rock or back in the area where there's shade, if you can. Just can't sit on the rock there. Are you sure you want to be in the sun?
I'm used to the sun.
Okay. Yeah, I know, me too. So, come on in. There's places down below where we're going to have to line everybody up here. And in this, there's a couple spots right there. You can find spots to sit along here. There's a couple spots to lean in there. So you're okay. Guys, you're in the sun, you might want to go on down there, and you can certainly go to the bottom there instead of being in the sun. That's probably better. Yeah. We'll all go down there. I'll move up and down here. Come on in. So are you guys the last ones up? Yep. Okay. So you can either find a spot down along the stairway. You can go all the way further down if you want, because we're going to need more room. And I'm going to try to speak to everybody here. So hopefully you can hear me. Can everybody hear me? Yep. You guys come on down here. There's some spots right there on the rock there. Find a spot to lean.
You got
If
it.
you're in the sun and you want shade, please come down. Okay. Drink water. Okay. I hope everybody can hear me. Again, it's kind of tight quarters, but we're going to talk a little bit about this rediscovery. So these people who had lived here 800 years left their imprint on the land for sure. And especially up on the top where some of their homes were when they were farming too. We find that they leave evidence of check dams, their homes, and pit houses, and even masonry structures up on top. So who are these people again? Let's ask that question. And we find out that the Wetherells, they know something's going on. They know there's people in this area, or had been. And they're ranchers who were in the area in the 1800s. So they're looking over their land and they see something and they realize the people have been here. But it's not until they come over the edge of the alcove that they discover Cliff Palace. And they discover these huge, massive villages, right? This is a big village. There's 150 rooms in there. And so when they rediscovered Cliff Palace, there is a lot of rubble everywhere. And I'm going to show you some pictures, and I want everybody to look at the pictures because you'll see these same structures over there now. So they've been preserved even from that time on. So this is all the rubble that they have to actually clear out to get a better understanding of what Cliff Palace was, okay? Or how many rooms it had, or to find out a little bit more about the people. So, and then I'm actually going to show you, after they clean up the rubble, I'm going to show you the footprint. I'm going to show you the footprint, the archaeological footprint, and how many rooms we end up here. And you're going to see actually small round circles on that footprint. You're going to see squares. And the small circles are those kivas. That's where the home fires burned. The small square rooms is the area that they might have lived in, okay? They might have slept there. But you can rest assured that this village had a lot of activity going on. What you see is the skeleton of the village. Imagine that there'd be colorful plaster alongside the walls and painted Okay? They had many paintings here. Think of their pottery. Their pottery, black on white pottery. You could see people out in this village working on the areas. So, and then I also want you to consider something else. These people living in Cliff Palace, a vibrant village, this would have been an epicenter for trade. That is one thing that we do learn about Cliff Palace, is that these people are providing big rooms and areas for major trade to happen. So I talk about the 1200s, and if you actually go back to about 1000, 1100, you'll find out that Chaco Canyon, an area just south of us, collapses, and those people leave and move on. And we wonder, where do they go? Do they find their way all the way to Mesa Verde? Most likely they do, because in the 1200s, we actually find a lot of evidence of Chacoan architecture here. And right across the way, we have Sun Temple, and that's one example of that. So remember, this is a region with 8,000, 10,000 people, and over 2 million in the country moving and making their way through this area with trade. And you can bet they were coming here to Cliff Palace and trading probably for some of the farm, the beans, the corn, the squash, maybe for that black on white pottery. I actually have some pictures of that. So they traded pottery in a big way here. And each region might have been known for its very colorful or very different pottery. So the people had a full culture of art. Just know that they did. And trade would have involved, actually trade would have also involved turquoise, shells. Think of all the regions. We have evidence of macaw feathers in this area. So these areas, like I said, become big trade epicenters, and I'm pretty sure Cliff Palace was used for that. We know it through the archaeological footprint. We seem to find out that there's not as many people living here as there are people working here, and probably living for different periods of time and helping with that administration. Now check out all this masonry work. It's very beautiful. You can tell that some of it is really a fine example of some of the work that they could do. You can also see areas that maybe are a little bit maybe you'd say probably the apprentice, okay? The apprentice working on it. And the truth is, I'm sure there were lots of levels of skill here. Now remember, they use stone tool technology. There's no metal here. So within it, that's got to be challenging within itself. And they do not carve out the alcove. They build around every feature that they have. And we have up to 4 stories here in Cliff Palace. And you see that ledge up at the very top there? Way up at the top. So that's a storage area. We know that they're storing their food there. Of course they would. It's out of the way of the animals and the critters, and it can stay very dry up there. You see some evidence of dry stacking up there. That's the masonry work that's very difficult to actually do, is dry stacking, especially for it to last this long. And then you also see small little square holes, okay? Those are actually called loopholes. So those small square holes up there, loopholes, would help those people. Actually, they would look out through those loopholes and be able to see into the canyon and guess or might be able to find out who's coming into the village. So this is an optical view of the canyon. So you can look out through that loophole, and I'm pretty sure you would see directly across to Sun Temple. So these villages communicated. These people knew everybody here. So towards the end of their habitation here, you could imagine, though, that things might get kind of tough if we're in drought, right? Maybe water supplies were down. Maybe food wasn't coming in quite as easily, and maybe there was more of a demand that they could even meet towards the end. And if your water sources die up, maybe it's time to leave. After 800 years of farming in this area, could the resources have even dried up? You know, we know that they're hunting large game in the beginning of their occupation here, and by the time they leave, we've just got squirrels and rabbits. That's the food they're living off. So it takes a lot of rabbits to feed a family. So you begin to wonder, you know, maybe supplies had come away here from. Maybe there was even some social conflict with the people that came in. Changes sure happened here. Architectural styles changed. We see that. A rural village for 800 years, all of a sudden we see this change in architecture in the last 100 years. So yeah, things were different. Things were moving and shifting here. Maybe another reason why they left. So we're going to go ahead and walk down to this area, but I'm going to ask, does anybody have any questions at this point?
I have a
Okay.
How would they get up?
How would they get up there? So you can actually see an entrance way back up in this corner here, back up into that shelf. And you could also imagine that possibly some of these structures might have been taller. So you'd have a roof over these structures. So you're still seeing the skeleton of it. So imagine rooftops and ways for people to move. And some of these would definitely be a lot higher too. So big complex area. So, and they could actually go through, you'll see as we get over to the main kivas. Now what is the kiva? Kiva is where the home fires burn. So it's the round structures that I showed in the map. And so that's where people would be living, spending their time procuring, living the seasons out, family members coming in there cooking, and maybe even dignitaries in trade would come through here. So we have 2 kiva structures at this far end that actually have 3 layers of stonework. So they're very fortified and very large. And you could also imagine that there'd be a rooftop over the kivas. Okay, just like we'd see rooftops over these small buildings, same as the kiva. It'd be wood, you know, it'd be woven wood, bark on top, and then plaster. So thick and so strong that you could walk on it, and you'd enter the kiva actually through a hole in the top and a ladder. Okay, and you'll see the construction in there. There's deflectors and vents that move the air out of there. So this certainly is where the home fires burn, and possibly where you would have entertained people who came for trade. We find many small rooms and small other communities. Balcony houses actually, as a crow flies, half a mile across from us. So remember, these people knew each other. They're all part of this big regional development here. So let's all walk on down, enjoy the architecture, ask questions.